And thou shalt love the Lord your God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. And thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates.
In modern parlance, this is called, you don't judge a book by its cover. You don't judge a person by his outward appearance. You must look inside, and this is very graphically illustrated by a beautiful Sephardic story.
This is Rabbi Solomon Maimon. He is an Orthodox rabbi, but he is also a Sephardi, a descendant of the Jews that were expelled from Spain in 1492.
And his wife kept nagging him and nagging him. We must find a husband for our daughter.
He is the rabbi for one of the two traditional Sephardic communities in Seattle. His community is composed of Sephardim mainly from Turkey, whereas the other is made up of Sephardim from the island of Rhodes. Like most of the members of his congregation, Rabbi Maimon was born in Turkey, and he immigrated to Seattle in the United States during the early 20th century.
Es bien sabido que en Sukkot una de las mitzvot importantes es que cada yuca que tome.
He speaks Ladino or Judeo-Spanish, the medieval Castilian dialect that the Sephardim have maintained for nearly 500 years since the expulsion from Spain. Ladino is basically medieval Spanish, but which also has a certain number of Turkish, Greek, and Hebrew words. He often makes use of the Me'am Loez with its repository of Sephardic folklore in his sermons and teaching sessions. And as a speaker of Ladino, Rabbi Maimon has been primarily responsible for preserving the Sephardic tradition in Seattle.
We in the city of Seattle have been in existence for the last 70 years as a Sephardic community. And we believe we're a very viable Sephardic community, in fact, one of the very best in America. And we've been very tenacious in keeping the ancient Sephardic traditions in our homes and in our synagogues and in our community. We have a community of 3,000 souls, 2 synagogues with 300 members each, and both synagogues keep the traditions very well. In America, the situation is not the same. Unfortunately, the interest in Sephardic traditions is waning because there is the lack of knowledge and the lack of appreciation of the beauty of the Sephardic traditions. What we have done is, for example, in the Passover, the Seder is conducted both in the Hebrew and in Ladino. On Kippur, we still say certain things in Ladino. We cite the Copas de Purim. There is a special book of Copas de Purim, and on Purim celebrations, we cite those. On Shavuot, we tenaciously hold on to the Ketubah de la Ley, which is composed in Ladino, which is a very beautiful poem about the marriage of the Jewish people to God, and the Ketubah, which is the marriage contract, and that is sung and chanted in the Ladino. Shabbat, the Haftarah, is still chanted in the old Ladino. Even though many people may not understand it, but we've published it and we practice it in the synagogue today. So if you come to our community, if you come to our synagogue, you will see Ladino and you will see Sephardic rituals in their richness and actually being practiced.
Salga novio! ¡Que salga el novio!
חסונך, נשבע בטובתך הגדול עליך. זה הכיסא של אליהו, נביא מלאך הברית שיבוא במהרה בימינו אמן.
ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להכניסו בבריתו של אברהם אבינו.
אמן.
ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגענו לזמן הזה.
אמן. כשם שנכנסו לתברית, כן ייכנס לתורה, למצוות, לחופה, ולמעשים טובים וכן יהי רצון. ונאמר אמן.
I remember that the most difficult Berit Milah, most difficult ritual circumcision that I ever performed was on our firstborn son, Abraham. The night before, I didn't sleep. When the day came, my hands were trembling. I could hardly see straight. Perspiration was running all over me. I approached it with the most trepidation in my life. I've never felt that way before. With my hands shaking, I performed. And after the performance, I examined Abraham, and thank God everything turned out all right. After that, when it was over, all I wanted to do was to imbibe and take a few beautiful rakis in order to forget all the excitement, in order to forget all the nervousness that I went through.
Unlike their Ashkenazic brethren, Sephardim consider it a privilege for grandchildren to be named after grandparents who are alive and well. And after each of the grandparents' names has been used, deceased members of the family are then remembered by naming a child after them. It is the Sephardic surname that hints at their illustrious history, names that go back hundreds of years to medieval times. Some of the names indicate the city or province in Spain from which their ancestors originated. Others are simple common Spanish names that were taken over by Sephardim. Some are of Arabic origin, and others are Hebrew names. And from the moment a Sephardic child is born, the major events of one's life, from childhood until one's old age, are filled with Ladino song. The following day, the community gets together for Sabbath morning services and for the traditional reading of a portion of the Torah consisting of the 5 books of Moses. The members bid for the honor of doing the mitzvot, or ceremonial duties done as preparations for the reading of the Torah. The individual contribution is then used for synagogue and other charitable purposes.
Mildan por meter los rimonim, Mildan. 2000 dan por llevar y traer Sefer Torah. 2000 dan. 1500 dan por hacer la Gilila. 1000 dan por hacer la cama. 1500 dan. 1500 dan por hacer la cama. 500 dan por meldar la aftara.
In the Sephardic tradition, when an individual is called up for a reading of the Torah, the younger members of the family stand in his honor. The cantor reads the portion with meticulous fidelity to tradition and does so without any improvisation.
Emetre de Kedusha Baruch Atah Monai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Torah Temet V'Chai Olam Tabdochenu Baruch Atah Monai Noten HaTorah. Amen Hazak Ubaruch Tiyeh B'Shmirach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov U'Moshe V'Aaron V'David V'Shlomo U'Yevarech Et Hashem HaTov K'mo Arazariah Sharchon Shehu Mitnadev $5 de shemen la mahora la memoria de su suegra Esther Benveniste
y $5 de Shem el Amor por la salud buena de su consuegro Israel Jalfón, y $5 a la honor de los nuevos casados de su sobrino Benjamín y Janet Babani. ולחיי קרובם ולחייך ולחיי כל הקהל מקדרומי גדול המחיי רצון ונאמר אמן.
חזק ברוך. חזק ומעץ.
חזק ברוך.
After the Torah reading, the individual is blessed by the cantor and by the congregation. But after nearly 75 years of existence, even this Sephardic community, considered by many to be the most traditional, is showing signs of cultural disintegration.